Um, Many of you have asked about who Acoustic is, so I'll share a little bit about Acoustic and then our direction, and then pass the microphone on. So Acoustic is the world's largest independent marketing cloud analytics company. We actually were established in July of 2019. I think Leandra was talking of that. We were formed out of IBM Watson Customer Engagement, and we have over 3,500 brands leveraging our solutions and services to drive better customer experiences and ultimately increased revenue. And it's across all industries. It's in finance, insurance, retail, the automotive industry, airline industry, telecommunications, so numerous industries that are leveraging our technology. In addition, if you look at all the analyst reports, Gartner, Forrester, there's probably been about 10 reports in this area over the last 12 months, and we're leaders in every single one of them. And why did we start Acoustic? Well, we started Acoustic because we wanted to focus solely on the marketing analyst area, but also we wanted to be able to drive brilliance in everyone's work. We believe that we can have a positive change in a market that's prime for disruption. Many are saying that in the marketing industry, the next 5 years, you'll see more change than you've seen in the last 25 years. And email marketing, mobile marketing are going to dominate in 2020. So we're actually having numerous customers leveraging our technology today, gaining great benefit. But as all strong companies, we don't stop there. So we're investing actually $150 million in research and development to drive that positive change, positive disruption in the marketing industry. I'd like to leave you with just a couple of questions that you can think through yourself. And that is, can you think of a positive digital experience that's memorable, that you personally went through? Can you think of one that perhaps wasn't positive, that was negative? And based off those experiences, would you interact with those brands again? Would you recommend them to your friends and family? And if you take that in aggregate, all those experiences in aggregate, those are going to heavily influence a brand's success over these next years. I just wanted to share an experience that I had that was really positive, actually entering into Chile. I came in yesterday from the States, and as we all have heard on the news, social media, the internet, the coronavirus, right, is an epidemic. According to some, others say it's taken way out of proportion. It's probably even less impactful than the influenza virus. But either way, independent of what your preference or view on that is, it's something we have to contend with. It's in the industry, it's in social, and countries are responding to it. So when I stepped off the airplane, walked down the corridor, I was handed a paper, in addition to our immigration paper that we have to fill out. It took me probably less than a minute to complete. And then I had to go to a window, hand in the paper. They asked me a few questions, gave me back the bottom of the paper, probably just now another few more minutes. And then as I was walking to immigration and baggage claim, they just stopped me for less than a minute and took my temperature, just to make sure I had no fever. I'd say that experience was very positive, and it could have been a negative one, right? But it was well orchestrated, it was frictionless, and it gave me actually a level of comfort, knowing that, granted, it's probably not comprehensive in understanding whether someone is sick or not, but they're taking the initial precautions. And most times, our customers just want to understand that we're taking that next step. We're actually understanding what their concerns are and moving in that positive direction. And that leaves a positive experience. And in talking with others, some have tweeted about it, some have provided some input in social media, and And if you think of organizations who have physical presence and digital presence, they all intertwine. So your experiences in a physical presence will impact digital and vice versa. And so all of that is what we're striving for to drive a positive experience as well. So I'd like to introduce Aldo as our partner, and he'll just say a few words and then also introduce Melissa, our guest speaker. So with that, thank you. And Aldo Merrick.
Muchas gracias por venir hoy día a acompañarnos en estos días medio complejos. Solamente agradecer a Acoustic por el apoyo y hacer que este evento se haga realidad. Lo estuvimos planificando ya hace varias semanas, así que me alegra mucho que haya podido ser algo también organizado. Vamos a tener las presentaciones de Melissa y Sofía, que nos van a introducir al mundo del Customer Experience a través del storytelling. Además está resaltar la importancia del Customer Experience hoy en día. Me ha tocado en los últimos 6 meses viajar por Colombia, Perú y Chile, entrevistando y haciendo entrevistas televisadas a directores de empresas y gerentes generales de empresas grandes. Muy agradado de constatar la importancia de la experiencia en el eje central de la estrategia de la empresa. Y eso es real, eso se está viendo. La relevancia es que hay estudios globales como los de Gartner que indican que los empresarios piensan, 80% de los líderes empresariales a nivel global piensan que Customer Experience va a ser un eje central que va a definir la competencia en sus mercados. Sin embargo, solo 20% de ellos afirma que sus empresas están preparadas o han desarrollado una propuesta de valor acorde. Por tanto, hay un gap enorme y muchos desafíos. En fin, sobre estos temas nos va a conversar más Sofía y Melissa. Muchas gracias por venir.
Okay. Un poquito español. Tengo que beber demasiado Chilean vino para poder recordar mis 5 años que tuve de español en la escuela. Okay. I have Sophie here. That if you do have confusion on something that I'm saying, if you have confusion, just raise your hand. And she will communicate in español. ¿Sí? Okay. Let me do this. And that'll come up. Okay. So I have been at Acoustic when we started in July. I'm going to give you some of my background. So you know why I'm here, but I spend my entire career in retail. I now exist as a Chief Innovation Catalyst. You may say, what is that? Think when you light a match and change happens. That is my role, to help brands across the globe think through digital transformation and make change. Okay, so with that, okay, so these are my brands that I worked for. Starting with Modell's Sporting Goods. This is in Manhattan, New York. I designed a customer loyalty program from my brain onto paper, handed it to my IT department, and we created one of the first loyalty programs that existed in retail. It was back in 1996. I am old. But I spent 8 years there, and back here, 1996, we were talking about personalization way back then, relevancy, one-to-one marketing. I also ran all the sports marketing, so I got to meet like the Michael Jordan and Derek Jeter and had signings with them, so it was a lot of fun. But we were talking about the same thing that we're talking about today. I then moved on to Office Depot. I think Office Depot's in Chile, yeah. I know it's in Brazil and Colombia, selling office supplies. Not that fun, not that sexy, but design loyalty program there. Sears Holdings, complicated business, Sears, Kmart, and 7 other brands under one company, designed loyalty and ran marketing, complicated business structure, and not doing well financially. And then Ulta Beauty. That is where my love was. Being able to market makeup and skincare and hair care to women in the United States. Ulta, I ran marketing, both store marketing and digital marketing. And you can imagine how complicated this business is. So that's a little bit about me. Thank you. Okay, so marketing trends. I'm going to go through 5 marketing trends before I actually get into the true keynote. So consumers are going to look for deeper meaning. They're looking for value. We live in this world that's full of craziness, political unrest, coronavirus, a lot of social isolation. It's very, very complicated. And as consumers are engaging with your brand, they're looking for you to deliver more value. And what that value is, it's not about pricing. There's a company out of France, Yuka, that created an app. Yuka is the app. You scan your food and you scan your makeup, and it will actually tell you the impact that will have on your body. That is value. That's extra value that you receive. Number of CX executives will grow by 25%. So in my place, when I was in marketing, we always did this campaign. What marketing event did we do last year? Let's do it again this year. Same week. So you're really trying to compare your sales equally and maybe change up some of your marketing. That paradigm shift changed, though. It changed from campaign-driven to data-driven. So these CX executives, I used to be asked, what was your ROI? It goes so much deeper. You need to not only know your ROI, your margin, the influence that your marketing has had for future growth, but also to get out of that phase of execution and get it done, get out of the test phase and get it broadly executed. Number 3, marketing technology is on the rise. On average, 22% of budgets are marketing technology driven. Now, I will tell you, how many of you are drowning in data and starving for wisdom? You have data everywhere. Yeah? A lot of data, and yet you really need to get to that point. AI technology, any technology that is infused with AI, augmented intelligence, is going to help you. This is where marketing technology is on the rise, because every single product review, every single tweet, every Facebook comment, nobody can actually read, ingest, and react to. So you need technology to be able to read it quickly and react to it. Next is B2B marketers. B2B marketers are finally embracing customer centricity. I think they always wanted to, but they were more focused on selling many widgets to another company. But now staying focused on what they're using segments, target audiences. So B2B marketers are definitely embracing the whole concept of customer centricity. And interestingly enough, as a B2B person that is buying products from you, you are also a consumer. So as consumer marketing is changing, B2B marketing is expecting that same change. So just know that. And finally, this is really fun, and this is where we're going to spend a lot of our time today. So the shift from storytelling to story making. What does that mean? So 10 of them, only 10% truly elevate their marketing function. So storytelling, is that me? Yay? Yay? Okay, storytelling figure is a vision board. If you're doing an ad, if you're doing a television ad, what does that vision board look like? That's storytelling. Story making is making the magic happen. That is orchestrating. I love that word, Terry. Orchestrating your marketing across all your different channels. So we're going to talk about story making today and a little storytelling. Okay, so what is this? This is an EKG. This image we're gonna kind of have a little bit of fun with. Can you press 2 more times? We all have these highs and lows in life. As consumers, we individually have highs and lows of life. We're gonna walk through all of those. But what we're gonna do as an industry, multiple industries, how do we create a frictionless experience for each individual? Because of all of these highs and lows that exist, it's really complicated. Just life in general is complicated. So it's incumbent upon us as marketers to look at exactly how we market and make it really easy for everybody to shop from our brand, to engage with our brand in banking, healthcare, insurance. Think about the process of all these highs and lows. You don't want to be complicated with calling up a bank for a bank loan. You want it simple. So we're gonna tell a little story today. So, next one. This is what it looks like, and we're gonna go through the story. So, boy meets girl. It's typical, right? Francesca, she's 22 years old. She has a degree from university in sociology, psychology, something along those lines. But she really wants to be a chef. That is her desire. She's 22 years old. She watches and marathon, in the States we use binge watches, food TV, because she really wants to understand how to cook her food. So Francesca then meets a little bit of a high, Javier. Javier is 26. Javier is an attorney. They met in college, and they actually live in the south of Chile. Okay, guess what? Boy meets girl, what happens? They get married. She makes one simple change on Facebook, and it says from engaged to married. Everybody makes some type of a change in relationships. And those are kind of, when you're on Facebook, those are the ones that are really interesting. You're like, oh, they got married, interesting. So we get married, and then there's a little bit of a low in life. What happens? They have their first fight. It happens. Guess what their fight's about? It's telco. Whose telephone provider are they gonna choose? Hers or his? They're totally opposite. She belonged to her family one. He was like, what do you, I don't wanna join your family one. Let's get one, let's use mine. Big fight that happens. So she goes online and she starts investigating family plans and just a household of 2 and what that looks like. And then out of nowhere, a couple days later, she's on the internet and she sees a digital banner. And that digital banner is, congratulations on your wedding. We see you're looking for quotes. So they identified this online, and click here for a free gift and share your wedding date. So now they're trying to create a very long relationship with Francesca and Javier and get them on board. Well, guess what? She actually convinces them. So an example that I'd love to share with you with telco, I want to use the term life stage. Everybody has different life stages. You could be just getting married. You could have a child going to college. You could, if I'm speaking too fast, a college going to university. You could buy a new house so you have less money. You need a different plan. Think of the life stages that you go through as a consumer. A lot of the telcos that I work with, one specifically, it's a regional telco, actually in Asia Pacific, they're very focused on marketing to life stages. So what they're doing is they're getting third-party data from Facebook, they're bringing it in to the database, to data analytics, look at it, then they're combining that with online behavior, searching for a brand new plan. So then they're identifying life stages by buying additional data. So when you look at an individual consumer, you can find out a lot more when you have that vision. And then you can get the execution and orchestrate it across your marketing strategy. Okay. So guess what? Baby's on the way. They're pregnant, they're expecting. This is obviously 9 months-ish later. And with that, what do? They watch a lot of TV. What's interesting, and Netflix, what's interesting with watching a ton of TV is, especially Netflix, there's no advertisements in Netflix. So what's happening in the world of marketing? We have something called product placement, Dos Equis. This TV show is a show, sí, it was Mexico, and seen a lot here from what I understand in Chile. But if you see the Dos Equis is in the background. This is a really interesting way for product placement. It's a different way. It's old school. When I was at Modell's, I received a phone call. Does anyone remember the show Sopranos? Yes. Oh yeah, okay. When I was at Modell's, I got a phone call from the producer. I was in charge of marketing. I was vice president of marketing. And they said, we really want to use your storefront as a backdrop. And I said, okay, I could do that. As long as his son, it was Tony Soprano and his son. There was an episode about his son playing football and he needed football equipment. So if you actually go and watch that, I made them put a Modell's bag full of stuff coming out of it. So it's not only the image of my logo, but it's also showing to get somebody to buy not only my logo. So it actually interrupted the way that you're visualizing the conversation between Tony and his son. So this concept is a good way to get your brand involved. And maybe on a small level, if there's local, you see Coca-Cola on American Idol. Dunkin' Donuts is this year's American Idol. So they're paying for product placement. So it's an interesting way because advertising in general on the big screen is changing a lot. Okay, so let's getting back to our story. So she has a doctor's appointment. It's right before she's about to have a baby. And as a doctor, you have a lot of patients to see in a given day. There's a lot of time. So what happens? Through WhatsApp, Dr. Diaz, Francesca gets a text message, is now available for an earlier checkup time. How amazing would this be? Can you come in at 1 p.m.? What that indication is, and I will walk you through a client that's doing this. Next, she replies, yes, I can. Would you like to continue to receive other options of a schedule in the future? Absolutely. And then it ties in traffic. Traffic seems to be bad. You live approximately 25 minutes away. Do you recommend, I recommend you getting here on time, or do you need to change your time? And nope, I'll be there. So what's happening in the world is this level of one-to-one marketing, where if you look here, this is connected to, we have a client that they're connecting the calendar through the system to start to leverage WhatsApp, and in the States, SMS texting, to be able to communicate if you can be moved ahead. Who wants to spend an hour waiting for a doctor in a doctor's office when you could spend an hour at work, or you could spend an hour with your family, or you could do whatever you want for that hour? So it's really, this level of touch is actually occurring in healthcare. We're working with a healthcare provider in the EU. They also tie in traffic. Notice this is not geolocation. How they do it, they have an address on file, and then they have the address of the doctor's office, and they say traffic is 25 minutes based on where you live. It's not saying based on where you are. Really interesting way to not have to use geolocation, but to just use 2 points of location that you can connect. So it's day to have the baby, maybe a day ahead. We're seeing that, you can go ahead, there is an interaction that occurs with Francesca that she can actually pre-check in, so she doesn't have to go to the hospital after her, everything happens, and she can actually go through the process of checking in early. She can get a level of questions of, do you want a therapeutic pillow or a regular pillow? Do you want a makeover? So when you get pictures, that you actually look pretty. So think of the interaction that your brand can have with each individual consumer. There's a suite. They identified through her, when she first asked, are there suites available? But they were already booked up by other mamas having babies. So what happened was somebody had a baby early and a suite became available. I'll show you how this is also happening with universities today. So online check-in happens, fill out the forms online so you can breeze right in. You could go right into the suite and have the baby. And then finally, what kind of ice cream do you want? Helado. Okay. All right, so meet Emilia. Emilia's born. I'll tell you though, they wasted no time in taking a trip. So they wanted to take a quick holiday. They live in the south of Chile. They're coming up to Santiago to go to Valparaiso to go to the beach. So what happens? Francesca goes into social media to start looking for outfits because now she has the baby. So she's like, all right, I'm gonna get good outfits. Social media takes this nod. Any marketer takes a nod for what's happening in social media. I will tell you that marketers are shifting 10% of budget into social media for two reasons. One, social media influencers, how you get people to talk about your brand. Very important. But I have to highlight, it needs to be authentic. We're finding that a lot of social media influencers are very forced. The message doesn't resonate with your average consumer. So a lot of social media, a lot of influencers are now, brands are turning to their actual customers to being a social media influencer. Let me give you an example. Sephora, it is a retailer of beauty in the United States. Sephora spent something along the lines of $10 million the first year of social media influencing. $10 million. Somebody said in the company, this has to be different. What do we do? So what they did is they created a gallery. If you go to Sephora.com, you'll see a gallery where a woman will do a look on her face and will attach the items in the website to the look, what she used to get the look. Now, as a shopper, you could go and shop my look, and if you buy what I tagged, you not only get rewards, I get rewards for influencing you. So it's a really interesting way, social media influence. And one other piece, social commerce. We're finding globally that a lot of brands are using one product to influence people on social media. That one product could be a hockey stick. It could be a dress in ready-to-wear. It could be anything. Social commerce is making a very big play on, in addition to website commerce. So keep that in mind. So getting back to our story, they're planning their trip. They actually bought an infant seat on the airline. So what's happening at this point? The airline says infant seat booked. That means I could react a particular way. They then ask her, do you want to board early? And do you need any special milk? It's going a little bit far, but I will tell you that as you're using data, you have to use data and listen to actually react in marketing. And how are you going to react in marketing? It's got to be quick. It's got to be automated. And you've got to have certain segments. So anyone that books an infant seat, we know what questions to ask. Next, they actually booked the hotel. And you can see, good afternoon, Mrs. Rojas. We see that you and Javier are arriving today, and you booked an infant sleeper. What are they asking now? Would you like allergy-free blankets for your baby? Think of the level of influence and personal relationship that this is creating. Would you like a pool infant float? Because they have a pool, they know they have an infant. How can they elevate the experience? Wouldn't we all love this? And then finally, new parents, they're gonna be in the room a lot. Don't you want a bottle of chilled wine or champagne in the room when you arrive? So think of that experience. I'll tell you a really good example. We are working with a global airline, and what they're doing is they're using remnant seats. So if there's an open seat in an airplane, they're looking in their database. They have a segment built that know that you are an international flyer, and there's a flight from New York to Paris. They have 10 seats available. What they'll do is they'll SMS text now And basically, instead of waiting for people to come and book a flight to Paris for the weekend, they will reach out to individuals that they know will actually buy the flight and SMS text them and close the deal right there. Interesting way, when you look at your business, dig in a little bit deeper and figure out ways that you can generate additional revenue by something like an open seat. Okay, going back to our story. So now she's been home, and now she's home with the baby for 5 years. She's still doing some work at home and she's getting paid, but she's really honing in on her skills of becoming a chef. She wants to stay focused though on building her kitchen, getting the right tools. So as she's really developing her skills, she's now 5 years into the process of cooking. So she engages with a website that is one of the top cooking websites. The beautiful nature of this is she could go and find different pots, different kitchen tools, pans, tagine, paella. She's buying a whole bunch of different stuff. What she's doing on this particular website is she's favoriting them. So she receives an email that's associated with everything that she's done online. Get 15% off your favorites, plus an additional 10% off items other chefs recommended. So what this particular retailer does is they look not only in the wish list, that's easy, search, when people search for something and then don't buy it, that's abandoned search. Take it a step further. Look what everybody else is buying in connection with the items that she looked at. So I'll give you an example with Ulta here. Beauty. Every woman here looks a little bit different. We have different hair color, we have different skin tones. Getting the right lipstick to the right woman in an email is almost impossible, right? Think of, I love that the women laugh and the men are like, how complicated is it? So think of very white skin and very dark skin. Then think of very light hair and very dark hair. Now, when you get an email and it's got a really bright orange lip that I would never wear, I don't even open it. It shows up and I'm like, ugh, move on. That is the level of detail that Ulta Beauty. We had 2,500 segments of women in order to impact marketing. So making sure that you're communicating to that level, it's important. Next. So here, it's a good way to do it. You could look at favorites. You could look at other chefs that have been buying you, customer models. All of these elevate the experience. Okay, going back to Francesca and Javier. Amelia, she grew up really fast. She is on her way to college. When I went to college back in the, golden age, I would fill out the application, I would put it in the mailbox and put it in the post, and then pray and wait for pray and wait for 6 weeks, 8 weeks to see if I got the fat envelope or the thin envelope. Not anymore. What's happening? She goes and she wants to be a lawyer just like her dad. She applies to the Ohio State University and she logs into the website, and individually, every candidate has a 10-step process to go through. Indicators, she's on step 3, and she hasn't moved on to step 4 right now. The other way that she receives is she receives text messages. Step 5, the panelists loved your essay, what you wrote. Step 6, 7, and then we get to step 10. Final step, congratulations, you've been accepted. This is the level of what's happening in university. I'm working with a university in Brazil. We have 3 different groups of target audiences. You have candidates, you have current students, and you have alumni. Alumni you need all the money from. How do you do that? The candidate, you kind of saw that process. Current students. A really good life case is that you want to get into a class, but every seat's full. So you go on a waiting list. How about getting a text message from the university? Guess what? A seat opened. Can you imagine being able to see that? And then you have 5 minutes to go online, grab that seat, or it's going to somebody else. It's that level of detail that universities are really trying to engage with students. So, continuing, she's really excited, she got in, so they're off and they're ready. You can kind of see that's a little bit of a low point, but they're really excited because Amelia's out. So, what now? So, guess who's super excited? Let's do this. She's ready. She's ready to open up her cafe. She's super excited, but there's a little bit of a low point coming. Getting the bank loan. She's never gotten a bank loan. He's been a lawyer. She's always been work at home she did a little journalism. She did some sociology, helping out, life coaching. So now she has to find a bank. And banking is very obscure to her. What kind of collateral does she need to have to put up to get this bank loan? How are her payments going to be? It's a very stressful time frame. So she finds a bank, and it's called Truist. Truist offers more than just low rates. They offer a community connection. The community connection is about connecting other local store owners, female, male, back to her because they've opened up a lot of loans. So she identifies with them and she signs on the dotted line. The beauty is, from banking, I've probably met with 20 banks globally, and everybody is struggling with the same thing. You've got multiple generations of human beings. You've got the baby boomers who are 70 and above, 65 and above, I think, yes. Then you have Gen X, that's me. Then you have millennial. And then you have Gen Z. Gen Z, born 1995 to 2010. Very different than millennials, by the way. Millennial selfie generation, Gen Z, no selfies. Millennials are open with security, Gen Z shares nothing. So it's very different. The banking industry is all about numbers. Who has the lowest rate, and that's it. And people shop around. So banking is looking to get closer with consumers. And how are they doing it? They're connecting their current loan holders with each other. So it's a community connectivity. They're creating a place on their website that this particular bakery shop owner can connect with this car rental company so she can rent a car to move her bakery goods instead of owning a car to cut down on costs. It's this level of detail that banks are looking at globally, and that connectivity. So next, she gets approved. She's super excited. And finally, Francesca opens her cafe. So while that's the end of my story, I have a couple more slides just to go through. But do y'all feel the highs and lows of life? Yes. Buying a house, having a baby, sending a child off to college, renovating a home, saving up for a piece of jewelry for your wife, a piece of jewelry, a watch for your husband. There are highs and lows that exist in everybody's life. So if we just want to go on to, and this one you kind of have to go through a couple of things. So if you look, we are navigating these milestones, and it's really, really complicated as individuals. But from retail to banking, while each is different, remember one really important thing. As you're changing your marketing strategy and as you're developing this really strong connectivity with your customer, as an industry, the consumer expects it from everybody. So think of that breaking glass. Think of how Amazon globally can deliver, except to a few countries, but can deliver overnight. In the States, in Amazon, I could get things at my door in 1 hour. So when I hear that I have to wait 5 days to get something, I don't understand it. How can Amazon do it and you can't? So when you're going through the process of marketing and the relevancy, we all have problems with personalization. I talked about it with Models 20 years ago. We still have that problem. Customer experience, whether you have a storefront or you just have digital online presence. speed to market. How quickly can you get that text message out? We understand all of these pieces at Acoustic, but we even take it a step further. We focus on your end consumer and we build backwards. We don't actually try to build a marketing strategy for you. We listen, Acoustic, we listen to you, and then we go to your end consumer and build backwards to figure out how you all live in a space of awesome execution and delivery. So this is kind of a pun, but with Acoustic as a trusted partner, you won't miss a beat. Next one. So there's 4 little clicks on this one. So going back to the story, so if you're looking to personalize experience on both behavior online and execution, where you want to execute an email that's related to behavior, or you want to maximize multiple channels for optimal response, where you don't know whether to, and I hear this all the time, do I do email or do I do SMS? Or WhatsApp, when do I know what to do where? So understanding the optimal relationship, connecting through common and relevant imagery, content. There is a statistic that says that we all have brains like a goldfish. 8-second focus and done. Yeah. So imagine using content to be able to communicate with people is really important. And then finally, how do you synthesize? How do you bring in all third-party data and be able to use it? Actionable data. So that's really 4th. Personalization, customer experience, speed to market, and actionable data. So how do you do that for a stronger 360 degree? And then finally, so here's my personal final story. I was a VP of marketing for 20 years in retail. I showed you my brands. I would have companies like Acoustic sit across from me and pitch me all the time. And I never knew who was right and who was wrong. A lot of people sell a very big game, and then as soon as the sale's done, they leave you. It's interesting because I've gotten burned, and I've also been super successful in some of my acquisitions of technology. With that said, IBM, which is the Acoustic's the carve out from IBM. IBM was never in the upper right quadrant. I never really thought about the technology that we have as being number one, because you had other players that were in that upper right quadrant. I'll tell you, as soon as we did the carve out, we invested, Centerbridge, the VC that invested in us, we invested immediately $150 million to change the product, to connect the end-to-end strategy. So now I am so proud that we sit in that top quadrant by ourselves. So that's the end of my story. Any questions? Preguntas.
No siempre son nuestras tecnologías, no siempre son nuestros procesos, pero muchas veces participamos un poco de esa idea y a lo mejor finalmente es una partecita nuestra, pero a lo mejor también tiene mucho que ver con el propio proceso o con la propia ejecución que cada uno de ustedes está llevando adelante. Entonces, con esa mini introducción un poquito desordenada, disculpe, le queríamos abrir un poquito acá 15, 20 minutos de preguntas, respuestas o ideas que ustedes tengan. Creo que en cierta manera el background y en cierta manera la experiencia profesional tanto de Melissa y Sofía a lo largo de estos últimos años es significativa en un conjunto de empresas que en general pueden ser tranquilamente empresas en las cuales ustedes se sientan como partners o como que se sientan como que hubiera un match, ¿no? Así que eso, no sé quién se anima a romper el hielo. Siempre la parte difícil es alguien que se anime a romper el hielo. Allá adelante. Muy bien, muchas gracias.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation, Melissa. And I work in the B2B industry, and you mentioned that finally the B2B is embracing the customer centricity. So I would like to know if you have examples of how is the B2B industry using digital technologies to do that?
I can absolutely answer that. What B2B, what's your industry? Mining. Okay. Like diamonds?
Not that fancy.
I'm like, let's become friends. Okay, so the way that B2B is complicated business, so totally understand that. Using the technology of bringing in third-party data, understanding the mindset, so all of your customer base. I had to do this and helped a company. I hired college university students to actually identify Twitter accounts, it feels weird, LinkedIn accounts, and I started to bring all of the data in that was hashtagged against all of my target audiences. So hashtag insert one of your clients. Then I used that data in my analytics tool to be able to understand what they were talking about, what their needs were. I took it really deep to start to look at them. Then created a scoring model, a lead generation model of understanding how I could sell to them better and deeper. Because as marketers, we care about two things: acquiring people and keeping people that are already buying to buy more. Really simple. Same thing with B2B. So using those lead scores, I would then create segments. I then created segments and then created automated strategies based on all of the information that because I created the link with the hashtags of their companies. Now, you may say they don't have a lot of social media presence. That's okay. You can also buy third-party data of not only who they are in email addresses and names, but more information. You can use articles that are written about them and bring that in and use content. And it's imagery, content imagery. So if you're selling to somebody, let's say that's in a mountainous region versus at the beach, having those tiny little connectivity with imagery will help you. And it definitely matters. So I'd have to dig in a little bit to mining. That's a new industry that I've never dealt with. I know that B2B, Samsung, I've worked with Samsung. Samsung is the largest purveyor of glass in the world. Interesting, right? Interesting. So Samsung sells glass. If you go into a hospital, the glass on every single screen of most medical equipment, that beep, 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 yeah, that is Samsung glass. So when you think of Samsung, they had a lot of problems because that B2B side, not buying TVs and selling TVs and phones, but selling the glass, how they created, they used testimonials from everybody else and use that as part of their marketing strategy as well to increase more new clients to come in, because it's good to have your marketing strategy. It's better to have your clients push you and your brand versus you pushing or I should say in addition to. So using that testimonial, using content, using connectivity, using outside data, bringing in, you have to think. We actually hold something called an innovation workshop. I would hold it since I'm the dedicated CMO here in Latam. And what we would do is it's a 4-hour meeting. I've done several of them, and I'm qualified as a practitioner to present. It's a 4-hour meeting that we break down 1 or 2 ideas. We're not boiling the ocean. We're not saying we need to increase sales. We have a very strategic issue. I'll give you an example. We had a retailer that is in America for furniture. They source globally, so they source from around the world, but each individual state buys locally. So if you live in Texas, where I do, I live in Dallas, y'all. Anyway, my couches are very big and they're brown, right? A lot of big stuff in Texas. When you live in New York and Manhattan, you have a tiny couch. When you live at the beach, you have a white couch, like Terry lives at the beach. So you have white, light colors. So we sat, their biggest problem was the last mile. People would come, they buy a $3,000 couch and then call call, where's my couch? Where's my couch? Where's my couch? That last mile was what they were trying to solve for. How do they figure out how to communicate to people? Because they were calling in the call center, and what is that? Nothing but sunk costs. Very expensive to run a call center. So we went and sat with them for 4 hours, this innovation workshop. We broke it down. We had 15 of them in the room, and we came out with a crawl, walk, run strategy on where to start. So I can give you a bunch of ideas. We can dig into mining from B2B perspective, but hopefully that helped just a little. But I'm happy to have innovation workshops for anybody. They're really fun. Okay?
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I have a question. There's been a time when the traditional marketing has evolved to digital marketing, but we as managers find that the company wants to promote the launches, the innovation that is creating for the brand equity, and at the same time we have to listen to the consumer to know what they want. And so I want your recommendation for what is the correct balance between promoting these important products that the company wants to promote for the equity, and how much time do we have to spend listening to what our consumers? What is the balance there?
That's a great
Thank you.
question. So if I'm parroting this correct, you're basically saying that you're being told to market something that is really important to your executive level, your shareholders, perhaps, but the consumer says,
No, but it's good.
it's good.
It's really good, but it's just some products that are really good, but I was impressed by your story that each individual has their own preference. So that is my question. What is the correct balance between dedicating our time to listening there or promoting these products that are good?
So we all deal with this, right? Do we all sit in this world? One of the things that I did early on, way back in my Models days, is I created a customer advisory board. I went and found my most important customers, and I brought them in to the office twice a year. We spent a full day talking about what's important to them in the entire process of shopping. At the time, we were launching a website. It was easy. It was simple. I also had a customer advisory board at Ulta Beauty. What's interesting is when you bring consumers in front of your executives and when you bring consumers in front of all of your team and people listen to what they want, you match that against your strategy. So you have that piece, your personalization, your relationship with marketing with your consumer. As much as you want to market that shiny new toy for brand equity and you want to really push something, if they're not buying it, you're wasting money. And when you start to look at and you measure your sales against your marketing, how many of you do that, where you attribute your marketing? Do you do that? You're looking at, of course you're doing ROI, but based on different tactics. I've hired many companies to do that, to measure how much volume was coming through. And I got down to product by product, the impact that each individual product had in digital marketing. How many times did somebody open up an email with sentiment on a subject line? How are you measuring and testing subject lines for digital marketing to be opened? If you have that individual product in the subject line, or you have somebody's name added to that product in the subject line. Relevancy, I cannot highlight more. Globally speaking, personalization and relevancy. Talk to me with the stuff I want to see. Talk to me with the promotions that I want. Talk to me with the imagery that relates to me. I'll tell you, really simple. I log into my doctor's website, and I am a woman. I am not pregnant. I don't have a baby in me. I don't have a baby. My husband had all them, and I have grandkids now. But I log in to go pay my bill, and they always show me images of pregnant women. Now, I get it, but it doesn't relate to me. It's that level of detail that when you go through your marketing process and you start from ground zero and you start to look at how you use data to inform marketing, inform strategy, inform product, it all starts with data. So does that help? So customer advisory board, using data, showing A/B testing. I'd be forced to promote certain things that didn't make sense because it was innovative or it was a new brand, a new product launch. But there's certain people that just won't buy it. So then it's wasted marketing dollars. Yes.
Hi. Hello. Hi. Thank you very much for the presentation. I wanted to ask you a little bit more of what do you think about influencers now? You just talked in your presentation, and it happens that we have many famous influencers that, even though it's not like a reliable post, it's really like TV. Like for at least I see it that way, and I wanted to see your opinion, because if she has 3 million followers, and she posts like the product, I am assuring that at least X% of people will know about this product. So I wanted to know what do you think, a little bit more about.
Sure.
What do you think about it?
Sure, thank you. So everybody in the world knows Kim Kardashian. Yes. They are the queens of social media, the Kardashian girls. They move mountains and sell stuff. They're very conscious on where they partner. When you have a social media influencer that has a ton of followers, it makes sense to pay them, provided you're getting the ROI. You may get the vision out there, but if it's not authentic, if you may get a lot of views, but if it's not authentic, you're gonna fall flat. I would recommend to you, based on the trends that I am seeing globally in every product, the smile product, listen, my husband gets a box maybe once every 2 weeks from something on social media. The funniest one he got was this. We have grandkids, and he and I are literally under 50, but he got this thing that was stacked wooden circles with a head, and it looked like a dancing something that you could play with kids. So in comes another box. He opens it, and I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Oh, it's something that dances." And I said, "What do you mean dances?" And there's a long string. What he didn't see on the video was that you had to connect the string to your ear and dance, and this little worm made out of little pieces of wood. It was, listen, social media influencing works very well when it is shot correctly. You invest the money, it's beautiful, it's sexy, it drives people to shop your brand. Paying influencers to do it makes sense if you're getting the ROI. If you're not getting the ROI, I do recommend dig into your client base. See what client really loves your brand, because their passion isn't paid for. It is because you've treated them well. It's because they believe in your brand, and they'll sell you just with passion. So do testing. That's my biggest recommendation. We have social media all over, especially in the States, influencers from Bravo TV, all these different famous people. I did a ton of player appearances with football and baseball, basketball, all over the United States. And yes, it drove people, but that's not even social media. That was just player appearances, one-on-one. People came, got the autograph, and left. They weren't necessarily buying items. but it made us look really good because we had this famous person. We had Michael Jordan in a store for an hour that cost me $125,000 US. 1 hour. Unbelievable. But if it's not generating sales, it doesn't matter. So just keep that in mind with social media. Yeah, and it's complicated. Social media is complicated, for sure. Well, it's because they believe in your brand and they'll sell you just with passion. So do testing. That's my biggest recommendation. We have social media all over, especially in the States, influencers from Bravo TV, all these different famous people. I did a ton of player appearances with football and baseball, basketball, all over the United States. And yes, it drove people, but that's not even social media. That was just player appearances, one-on-one. People came, got the autograph, and left. They weren't necessarily buying items. But it made us look really good because we had this famous person. We had Michael Jordan in a store for an hour that cost me $125,000 US. 1 hour. Unbelievable. But if it's not generating sales, it doesn't matter. So just keep that in mind with social media. Yeah, and it's complicated. Social media is complicated, for sure. Any other questions? Okay, Leandro, we break, we network, or I can share marketing assessment, what something like that looks like.
I think that we break.
We break. Okay.
So, bueno, yo creo que muchas gracias a todos. Creo que estamos un poquito sobre la hora. Nos queda ahí como más o menos 20 minutos. Pero si quieren hacer algún tipo de networking y demás, como para que podamos estar acá, o sea, tenemos como para más o menos 15, 20 minutos de networking y ese tipo de cosas. Melissa les contó sobre los estudios que hace junto con el equipo de Sofía, un poco lo que les contaba. Si alguien está interesado en eso, quieren hacer un doble clic sobre eso, bueno, ahora tenemos estos 15 minutos como para conversar y ver un poco de ese tema si es que interesa. O también algún tipo de preguntas o conversaciones más del tipo 1 a 1 que quieran tener. Pero la idea era como justamente tener acá 15, 20 minutos de networking entre ustedes, entre nosotros y eso sería. Así que quiero agradecerles muchísimo. Le voy a pasar la palabra entonces a Aldo para ir cerrando y eso sería de mi parte. Muchas gracias.
Sí, muy brevemente. Thanks very much, Melissa and Sophie, for the presentation. It was really stimulating. Thanks very much. Gracias a ustedes por venir. Hay diferentes industrias, diferentes experiencias aquí. Sería súper interesante que salgamos todos o nos quedemos acá a conversar y a compartir un poco más cualquier tema relacionado o lo que les parezca. Muchas gracias nuevamente a Acoustic por el apoyo en este evento. Gracias.
Melissa obviamente trae una experiencia muy concreta y extendida en términos de marketing y sobre todo lo que tiene que ver con personalización, con relevancia, cuestiones que son súper importantes hoy día, dada la gran cantidad de comunicaciones que reciben los clientes. Yo creo que queda bastante claro cómo con este tipo de herramientas se puede hacer un marketing mucho más generador de valor de lo que estamos acostumbrados, que es más bien un marketing masivo, de pesca con red. Yo diría que hay una experiencia bien concreta de cómo hacerlo distinto.
¿Te llevas herramientas para aplicarlas?
Sí, me llevo herramientas y también vimos un poco de algunas tendencias que están empezando a tomar fuerza, como las que comentó del social commerce. Yo creo que es algo que es bien interesante en nuestro país, que tiene un alto nivel de penetración en redes sociales, así que definitivamente ahí tenemos algunos takeaways importantes.
La encontré súper buena. Me pasa que efectivamente todos sabemos que la experiencia de compra y todo lo que es digital hoy día es lo que está en tendencia, es lo que hay que lograr desarrollar y conectar finalmente con el consumidor. Creo que todo se basa en eso. Cómo conectáis realmente y lo hacía entretenido, ya que no sea algo tan forzado finalmente. Y desde cómo nos presentó, cómo nos contaba, todo este... me encantó la parte del marketing según las etapas en las que uno está viviendo y cómo conectan las marcas ahí. En el fondo, cómo hacerse relevante en un entorno donde hoy día estamos, la verdad, todos, porque al final somos consumidores y también trabajamos obviamente en distintas empresas en justamente desarrollar lo que es el marketing en mi caso. Cómo desde todo este bombardeo de información uno se hace relevante, y creo que tiene que ver con ese conectar y escuchar al consumidor, ¿ya?
Durante la conferencia tú hiciste unas preguntas. ¿Sentiste que te aclaró tu duda?
Sí, totalmente. Es que encontré súper interesante porque el tema que hablaba ella de las influencers es un gran tema, porque por un lado es un medio que sabemos que depende de la cantidad de seguidores que tiene, y si bien el ROI, obviamente si es que pasa el ROI, es un medio relevante de comunicación, pero a la vez efectivamente ya nadie lo cree. Entonces es cómo le dais la vuelta a esto y cómo vais más allá, y nada, me encantó, la encontré súper buena.
Siempre el tema de transformación digital, de uso de datos, está muy aplicado en la parte de retail, y para nosotros el desafío es cómo llevarlo a un mundo más industrial, más un mundo B2B en este caso.
¿Sientes que con esta conversación con Melissa llevaron algunos elementos que podrían aplicar?
Sí, sobre todo después de la presentación tuvimos un momento en que nos reunimos con ella, nos sentamos y conversamos más privadamente, y nos dio varias ideas interesantes.